What if the Washington quarter you've been spending since childhood is actually worth more than a luxury car? Hidden among everyday 25-cent coins are three rare Washington quarters that collectors are desperate to find because of silver content, rare dates, and unbelievable minting errors. One small detail most people never notice can turn an ordinary quarter into a 5- or 6-figure treasure. Millions of these coins were spent before anyone realized their true value. Before you toss another quarter into your pocket or vending machine, stop and look closely, because you might already own one of the most valuable Washington quarter-dollar coins.
Before you ever spend that old quarter sitting in your drawer, take a close look, because that 1984 Washington quarter might just be worth a small fortune today. And what if I told you that behind this simple-looking coin lies a fascinating story of American history, minting evolution, and hidden varieties that have stunned collectors for decades? This is not just a coin. It's a piece of national identity molded in metal. So get ready, because today we are diving deep into the untold and mesmerizing history of the 1984 Washington quarter, a coin that silently bridges the past and present of the United States. Mint. The story of the 1984 Washington quarter begins with the enduring legacy of George Washington himself, the first president of the United States, whose image had already graced American coinage for over 5 decades by the time this specific issue was struck in 1984. This quarter is not just a piece of change, it is a testament to America's artistic heritage, technical innovation, and economic conditions that defined the early 1980s as the United States entered a period of rapid modernization, inflation battles, and changing minting technologies. The Washington quarter continued its long journey as a coin that represented stability and pride in the midst of national transformation. In 1984, the United States Mint operated through 3 major facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each with its own mark of excellence and each producing slightly different variants of the Washington quarter. The Philadelphia Mint quarters carried no mint mark, a continuation of a long tradition, while the Denver Mint proudly stamped its coins with a small letter D, and the San Francisco Mint continued its role in creating the proof versions of the quarter for collectors. The proof coins were struck with extraordinary precision on highly polished planchets and were never intended for circulation. These proof coins featured a mirror-like finish and razor-sharp details that made them stand apart from their circulation counterparts. To understand the importance of the 1984 Washington quarter, we must first look back to the origin of the design itself. In 1932, the U.S. Treasury and the Commission of Fine Arts decided to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth with a new quarter-dollar design. The design competition was won by sculptor John Flanagan, whose portrait of Washington was based on a bust created by the famous French sculptor Jean-Antoine Houdin. Flanagan's design was chosen for its dignified yet approachable representation of Washington and its adaptability to the small coin surface. Since then, the Washington portrait had undergone only subtle modifications, but the overall theme and structure remained constant, symbolizing continuity and respect for tradition. By 1984, the composition of the Washington quarter had long changed from the original 90% silver and 10% copper alloy used until 1964 to the modern copper-nickel clad composition introduced in 1965. This clad design featured an inner core of pure copper and outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy, resulting in a coin that was both durable and cost-effective to produce. Each 1984 Washington quarter weighed 5.67 grams and measured 24.3 millimeters in diameter with a reeded edge of 119 reeds. This change in composition not only reflected a shift in U.S. economic policy, but also a response to the increasing cost of silver and the changing nature of American commerce, where coins were needed in high quantities for daily transactions. The obverse of the 1984 quarter features the familiar left-facing bust of George Washington, with the word liberty above his head, and the motto, "In God we trust," to his left. Beneath his chin, the date 1984 is positioned at the bottom. The simplicity and strength of this design continue to resonate with collectors today, while the reverse bears the bold and majestic image of an eagle with outstretched wings clutching. A bundle of arrows symbolizing defense and readiness beneath the eagle are 2 olive branches representing peace. This balance of peace and strength has long been one of the most recognizable and symbolic elements of American coinage. In 1984, the minting process was becoming increasingly sophisticated with improved quality control and precision striking equipment. Yet even with such advancements, errors and varieties occurred that today make the 1984 Washington quarter especially interesting. To collectors, among the notable varieties are the double die obverse quarters, where doubling appears in the inscriptions such as Liberty or the date 1984, and the rare off-center strikes that occurred when planchets were misaligned during the striking process. Some quarters from the Denver Mint showed minor die cracks or weak strikes that make them desirable to variety hunters and error specialists in numismatics. These small imperfections often lead to big discoveries and even bigger prices in the collector's market. The mintage numbers for the 1984 Washington quarter were massive, reflecting the growing demand for coins in circulation across the nation. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 676 million coins, while the Denver Mint added more than 546 million to that total combined. These figures meant that over 1.2 billion Washington quarters were produced in 1984. Yet despite such large numbers, certain well-preserved examples stand out today, especially those that remain in mint state condition, graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC. Collectors value these pristine coins for their sharp details, smooth surfaces, and bright luster, which are increasingly hard to find after decades of circulation. Proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint with the S Mint mark were produced in far smaller quantities, usually for inclusion in collector sets. These proof quarters exhibit frosted designs set against mirror backgrounds, a technique achieved through multiple strikes of highly polished dies. The 1984 S proof quarters remain a favorite among collectors for their stunning contrast and their representation of the U.S. Mint's craftsmanship during this era. The 1980s were a period of transition for the U.S. Mint as it prepared for the technological leaps that would define later decades by 1984. Computer-assisted design and laser engraving were still in their infancy, but experiments were already underway that would later revolutionize the way dies were produced. The minting of the 1984 quarter thus represents a fascinating blend of traditional craftsmanship and emerging technology. It was struck during a time when the mint was balancing mass production efficiency with the artistic integrity of coin design, a challenge that remains at the heart of coinage production even today. From a collector's perspective, the 1984 Washington quarter may not initially seem rare due to its massive production numbers, yet the true value lies in the details. Mint state coins, error varieties, and proofs can command impressive prices at auctions and private sales quarters, with full lustrous surfaces and strong strikes often attract attention from grading services and serious collectors. Some rare examples have fetched hundreds of dollars, while unique error specimens can reach into the thousands, depending on their condition and rarity. Beyond its physical attributes, the 1984 Washington quarter carries historical and cultural weight. It was minted during the Reagan administration, a time marked by economic growth, patriotism, and renewed interest in American symbolism. The Washington quarter itself had become more than just currency. It was a miniature tribute to the nation's founding ideals that continued to circulate in every corner of the country. From small-town shops to bustling cities, every time someone flipped or spent a 1984 quarter, they were unknowingly passing along a piece of American heritage. Numismatists and historians alike often view the 1984 quarter as a window into a transitional period of U.S. coinage before the monumental changes of the state quarter program launched in 1999, which would later redefine the way Americans saw their coins. In this context, the 1984 Washington quarter stands as one of the final representatives of the classic eagle reverse before the flood of new designs took over. It symbolizes the last stretch of the traditional Washington quarter design era, an era that lasted more than 6 decades before giving way to the modern commemorative series today. Collectors hunt for 1984 Washington quarters in rolls, mint sets, and estate collections, always seeking that rare, flawless example or unusual mint error for many coin enthusiasts. The allure of this quarter lies not in its rarity, but in its story. Every coin carries its own journey through time, passing from hand to hand, accumulating both wear and legacy over 40 years later. The 1984 quarter remains an enduring icon of American minting history, a coin that tells a story of craftsmanship, evolution, and national pride. So when you next hold a 1984 Washington quarter, pause for a moment and look closer. The shine you see is not just metal. It's history pressed into form. The face of a founding father, the wings of an eagle, the mottos of a nation, and the unseen hands of craftsmen and machines that brought it to life. Each line and detail represents a chapter in the story of America. And for collectors, that story never grows old, because within each coin lies a timeless connection. Between the past and the present, between art and economy, between the spirit of freedom and the enduring symbol of the United States Mint. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary yet so full of mystery that it connects the everyday pocket change of millions to a hidden chapter of American history? Today, we are diving deep into the world of the 1982 Washington quarter, a year when the United States Mint broke tradition, a year that changed the future of coin collecting, and a year that turned simple change into valuable treasure. This is not just another coin story. This is the untold legacy of the 1982 Washington quarter, a piece of metal that witnessed an economic struggle, a technological transition, and a numismatic revolution. Stay tuned, because what you are about to discover may change the way you look at your loose change forever. The year was 1982. America was recovering. From an economic recession, unemployment was high, inflation was tightening its grip, and the U.S. government was taking drastic measures to cut costs. One such measure would forever mark the Washington quarter's history for the first time since the 1960s. The United States Mint decided not to produce any mint sets for collectors, a decision that would make the 1982 quarters among the most elusive and intriguing coins of the modern era. The Washington quarter itself had already been an American icon since 1932, when it was first struck to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. The quarter's obverse proudly displayed Washington's bust facing left, inspired by Jean-Antoine Houdon's sculpture, while the reverse carried the image of an American eagle clutching arrows and olive branches symbolizing strength and peace. But by 1982, this familiar coin was undergoing its own transformation. The coinage landscape had already shifted in 1965, when the U.S. Mint eliminated silver from the quarter, changing it to a copper-nickel-clad composition due to rising silver prices. However, the 1982 quarters would face a new kind of challenge. Inflation had driven production costs so high that the Mint had to reduce expenses, and this meant one thing: no uncirculated mint sets that year, which made high-quality quarters rare for collectors, unlike previous years, when coin collectors could easily obtain pristine examples from government-issued sets. 1982 forced them to search through circulation to find well-preserved coins. This scarcity of high-grade examples would later become one of the main reasons why the 1982 Washington quarter gained immense value in the world of numismatics. The quarters minted that year came from two primary facilities: the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Both struck millions of coins, but each with its own story. The Philadelphia Mint produced quarters without a mint mark, a tradition it followed, until 1980, after which the letter P was added. However, in 1982, the Philadelphia quarters proudly carried the P mint mark, marking only the third year this identifier had appeared on circulating quarters. On the other hand, the Denver Mint produced coins with the D mint mark, and both mints contributed to a combined total of more than 1 billion coins. Though the numbers sound large, the real challenge lies in finding one in top condition, because without mint sets, most 1982 quarters circulated heavily from day one. Of the most fascinating details about the 1982 Washington quarter lies in the fact that it was a year of transition, not just economically, but also in the mint's technology and quality control methods. The mint was under financial pressure to produce more coins at lower cost, and that led to reduced quality in striking. Many 1982 quarters show weak strikes or uneven surfaces, and because of this, finding a sharp, crisp, detailed example with full luster has become a serious challenge for collectors. Grading services like PCGS and NGC recognize the 1982 quarter in mint state condition as a significant find, especially in MS65 or higher. These can command values far exceeding face value, sometimes hundreds of dollars for exceptional specimens. There were no proof quarters produced in 1982 either. Another unusual decision-proof coins were typically minted at the San Francisco facility with mirrored surfaces and sharp reliefs designed for collectors, but due to budget cuts, proof sets for 1982 were completely halted, meaning that both uncirculated and proof examples from this year are true rarities in American coinage history. In addition to rarity, the 1982 Washington quarter has become a favorite. Among variety hunters, there are known die varieties and minor errors, such as doubled dies, weak strikes, off-center strikes, and planche errors. These mistakes occurred due to the immense production pressure on the mint and the aging of equipment. As it struggled to keep up with the coin demand during a volatile economic time, each of these varieties adds a new layer of fascination for collectors who see the 1982 quarter as more than a coin, but as a relic of a pivotal year in mint history. Fully understand the significance of the 1982 Washington quarter. We must consider the broader historical and economic backdrop. The early 1980s were a time of economic uncertainty. Interest rates were at historic highs, and Americans were feeling the squeeze of inflation. The U.S. Mint had to make operational sacrifices, and as a result, its production policies changed forever. The decision to stop producing mint and proof sets for 2 years, 1982 and 1983, marked a rare moment in U.S. coinage history. It made both years a challenging pursuit for collectors trying to complete modern sets in pristine condition. Beyond its numismatic importance, the 1982 quarter also represents a cultural moment. It circulated in a time of changing America, when technology was advancing, when space exploration was inspiring the nation, and when the Reagan era was reshaping economic policy. It passed through millions of hands as people bought gas newspapers and groceries, symbolizing both struggle and everyday resilience. Each quarter silently carried the mark of its time, from the steel presses of Philadelphia and Denver to the cash registers across the country. Today, the 1982 Washington quarter stands as a testament to endurance. Its copper-nickel surface may seem ordinary, but behind that metallic sheen lies a story of transformation, scarcity, and value. Collectors seek them not for their face value, but for what they represent. The year the mint broke tradition, the year the quarter became more than currency, it became a legacy. So when you find a 1982 quarter in your change, take a closer look. You might be holding a piece of American history forged in the fires of economic change. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary yet so mysterious that it carries decades of American history right in the palm of your hand? Well, today, we dive deep into the story of the 1981 Washington quarter, a coin that looks simple but hides secrets of minting, evolution, economic change, metal composition, and design legacy that shaped modern U.S. currency. This is not just a coin, it's a piece of American transformation. And by the end of this video, you'll see why the 1981 Washington quarter isn't just pocket change. It's a time capsule that tells the tale of power politics, precision, and pride. The 1981 Washington quarter stands as a bridge between the traditional craftsmanship of early 20th century coinage and the modern minting technologies that defined the United States coin production of the late 20th century. To truly understand its story, we must go back to the very roots of the Washington quarter itself, born out of a nationwide movement to honor the first president, George Washington. This coin was introduced in 1932 during the Great Depression. The quarter quickly became a symbol of resilience, unity, and the American spirit. The original design was created by John Flanagan, whose portrait of Washington was inspired by the famous bust sculpted by Jean-Antoine Houdon. This design became a lasting image of leadership, integrity, and national pride. By the time we reached 1981, the Washington quarter had already gone through decades of changes and represented much more than a 25-cent piece. It was the canvas of American history, economic transition, and artistic adaptation. The year 1981 came during a crucial turning point in the United States economy. Inflation was still echoing from the 1970s energy crisis. Unemployment rates fluctuated, and the government faced the challenge of restoring economic confidence. The U.S. Mint had to continue producing high volumes of coinage to meet circulation demands while managing costs. The Washington quarter, which had transitioned from silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition in 1965, now reflected not just fiscal policy, but also the modernization of coin production processes. These quarters were produced at three major mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each mint contributing to the legacy of the 1981 issue. The Philadelphia Mint struck the 1981 P quarters, which bore no mint mark at the time, and were intended primarily for circulation. These coins were produced in vast numbers to meet daily transactional needs. Their composition remained consistent with the post-1965 clad standard, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. This composition provided durability, cost efficiency, and a distinctive ring that collectors often use to identify clad coins by sound. The surface of these coins carried the familiar left-facing bust of George Washington, his hair tied in a queue with the word Liberty prominently displayed above, and the national motto, "In God We Trust," to the left on the reverse was the heraldic eagle. With wings spread a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing readiness for defense, and an olive branch below representing peace at the Denver Mint. The 1981 D quarter was struck in similarly massive quantities. The Denver Mint, known for its precision and consistency, produced millions of coins that circulated widely across the central and western regions of the country. What makes the 1981 D quarter particularly interesting to collectors is the subtle variance in strike quality, die wear, and plancher condition that appeared across different die states, because minting technology of the early 1980s was still developing consistency. Sometimes varied, meaning that certain examples have sharper details or stronger luster, while others appear dull or weakly struck. Over time, numismatists have identified minor die varieties and small differences in mint mark placement that intrigue collectors. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint produced the 1981 S proof quarters. These coins were not intended for general circulation. Instead, they were made for collectors and coin sets. Proof coins undergo a special minting process that involves multiple strikes using highly polished dies and specially prepared planchers, resulting in mirror-like surfaces and frosted design elements. The 1981 S proofs are particularly notable because that year marked one of the final times that proof coin production used the traditional San Francisco minting techniques before the transition to more automated systems that came later in the decade. There are two known varieties of the 1981 S proof quarter, Type 1 and Type 2. The distinction lies in the mint mark style. Type 1 features a filled S mint mark, while Type 2 has a clearer, sharper S. Collectors often seek out both as part of comprehensive proof sets. Beyond mint production, the 1981 Washington quarter plays a vital role in the broader numismatic timeline. It stands as the penultimate issue before the 1982-1983 production years, when no mint sets were officially released by the U.S. Mint. That absence created a scarcity gap for collectors, making the 1981 issues particularly valuable. As a link between the classic Washington quarters of the 1970s and the modern production runs that followed, the design itself, while still rooted in John Flanagan's original work, had begun showing signs of die fatigue. By this point, the repeated use of master hubs over nearly 50 years had gradually softened some design elements, notably Washington's hair details and the eagle's feather lines. This visual wear tells a story of how the mint balanced tradition with practicality, preserving historical artistry while managing industrial efficiency. The economic context of 1981 cannot be overlooked. Under President Ronald Reagan's early administration, the United States faced shifting fiscal strategies, tax reforms, and economic recovery efforts. The minting policies and coin production reflected that climate, where cost-effectiveness and resource conservation were key. The choice to continue using copper nickel-clad instead of reverting to silver was a deliberate move aligning with the nation's broader economic goals. This decision not only stabilized coinage production costs, but also defined the aesthetic and tactile experience of modern American coins. From a collector's perspective, the 1981 Washington quarter holds both historical and numismatic importance. Circulated examples remain common, but high-grade mint state coins, especially those graded MS-66 and above, are considerably harder to find because most were used in everyday commerce for years. Their surfaces bear marks and abrasions that make pristine examples rare in uncirculated condition-proof versions. Especially the Type 2 variety hold significant collector interest for their clarity, precision, and aesthetic appeal over time. These coins have become Key components in complete Washington quarter collections, representing the bridge between two eras of American coin design. When we analyze the artistry, the 1981 quarter continues to carry the deep symbolism of unity, strength, and peace. The eagle on the reverse is more than a national emblem. It reflects America's spirit of vigilance and hope. Amid economic and political challenges of the early 80s, its outstretched wings suggest freedom, while the olive branches beneath serve as a reminder of diplomacy and aspiration for global peace. The arrows signify readiness to defend that peace if necessary. This balance of imagery was particularly meaningful in a time when the Cold War still defined much of the world's tension and American identity was undergoing transformation in industry, technology, and culture. In terms of technical production, the Mint's use of high-speed presses, advanced blanking techniques, and improved die hardening methods in 1981 signaled a step toward the future of coin manufacturing while maintaining the traditional artistic integrity of the Washington design. It was a year that tested the Mint's ability to maintain quality control under growing demand as the population increased and coin circulation expanded throughout urban centers. This emphasis on efficiency led to the refinement of plancher inspection methods, automated counting systems, and die polishing standards, all of which shaped the evolution of U.S. coinage in subsequent decades. In the grand narrative of numismatics, the 1981 Washington quarter might appear as an ordinary coin, yet it embodies the technological resilience, economic story, and national identity of its time. It serves as a tangible connection between America's founding ideals represented by Washington himself and the nation's modern journey into industrial and global prominence. Every scratch and tone on a circulated 1981 quarter tells a story of millions of hands that exchanged it for goods, services, and memories, from vending machines to gas stations, from pocket change to collector's displays. This quarter witnessed daily life in early 1980s America. As we close this historical journey, the 1981 Washington quarter stands not merely as a coin, but as a legacy struck in metal. It is a testament to American perseverance and continuity from the age of the Founding Fathers to the high-speed minting halls of the modern U.S. Mint. It reminds us that even the smallest piece of currency carries with it the story of a nation, its challenges, triumphs, and unbroken spirit. So next time you see a 1981 quarter, look beyond the surface, because what you hold is not just 25 cents. It's a chapter of American history that will forever resonate through time.